welcome back to the stock market portfolio update videos. Currently, my two stock portfolios sit at a combined value of $89,850. That's made up of the $38,352 in my Vanguard portfolio and the $51,498 in my stake portfolio. Overall, my stake portfolio is up 35.58% or $13,514, and my Vanguard portfolio I believe is up over $6,000 this year. So it's been a very good year for many investors, and my stock portfolio is getting very close to hitting the $90,000 mark. And if the markets open up well on Monday, then I potentially will have ticked over that goal of mine. Overall, the goal is still to hit the big $100,000 mark, but looking at my holdings and my portfolio, I believe I am in the position to do so. Next, I wanted to go through quickly mentioning that I am sitting on a large chunk of cash. So you can see in my Vanguard account, I'm sitting on $2,136 of cash, which is a bit unusual for me. It is because I thought stocks were quite expensive at the moment, but I do have a lot of extra, or a chunk of extra cash sitting around. And I still have all my emergency savings and things like that, because that's most important. And I need to be putting my money to work. So I put some money into this account, and I'm getting closer and closer to hitting that $40,000 mark before the end of the year, as we're now only basically $650 off. So I definitely will be hitting that before the end of 2024, which is a nice goal for me. And yeah, that'll be another good thing to tick off on my road to getting this portfolio to $50,000 next year. The snowball effect definitely has been working, and you can see across my portfolio with the strong returns of everything this year. It's been quite good for me, and I believe my portfolios combined are up closer to $40,000 this year, or they will be by the end of the year, hopefully, as I keep putting money into them. So it's been a very good year for many investors, including myself, and hopefully this momentum can carry on to 2025. And even if it is a slower year, I plan to use that time and market downturn, if there is one, to continue to buy into stocks that I believe in long term. So that's kind of my outlook, especially as we end the year. But I did want to do this, keep doing these updates as we pledge closer and closer to the end of the year. I'll do a video kind of updating my strategy for 2025, kind of my thoughts on my portfolio and my goals for the upcoming year. I did do a recent video kind of talking about my goals for 2025 was also to get $2,000 of dividends. That wasn't monthly, that was annually. Obviously, I'm not really a dividend investor, so my dividends are a bit smaller, but I'll cover them a little bit later more. But yeah, that's one goal of mine, is to hit $2,000 in dividends. I believe I'll be close to like 1,300, 1,400 this year, I think. So yeah, getting that extra bit of growth next year will be quite good. And you can see the S&P is up 31% this year. So an amazing year for investors. And it's been a nice reward for previous years of hard work when the market was down like this. So to have this kind of bounce back, if you would to just get a rule route, you can kind of see this trend that's happened here, and it's kind of carried it along from the last 5 years. And I kind of made the most of it in 2022 and early 2023 to kind of build up my portfolio and deposit more and more as much as I could. Because if you've seen some of my older videos, I was actually down 20% at one point. So it was rough times then, but I just kept building my positions, and now I'm kind of reaping the rewards of it. Again, I don't think I'm some exceptional investor, but my goal is to have a long-term approach, and it is almost getting to a long-term approach now, as I think I ticked over 4 years of investing now, so it's quite good. I started investing pretty much as soon as I turned 18. I'm now 22, so I tried to get in as early as I could and just kind of build those good habits of putting money aside, and I quite enjoy it as well, so I'm not complaining at all. It's fun for me to put this money away. It doesn't feel like I'm hoarding money or anything. It feels like I can do these videos and create content, which I quite enjoy, whilst also building some wealth for me, hopefully going forward in the future. So again, having a look at the portfolios, this pending order I've put in was to buy the Vanguard International Shares ETF, or VGS as it's commonly known, and it was around $828. So I think it was 6 shares, 6 shares, or 6, which still leaves me with $1,300 in cash. The reason why I was putting so much cash aside was I was kind of hoping there would be a market pullback and I could hopefully just power in and buy some more stock if markets did come down a little bit. But I think every single day last week they were up. So even if we have a look at some of my key holdings, go across the board, you can look at Apple last week up 2%. You look at Amazon last week up 3%. Costco last week up a little bit, not as much, but it had a pretty good run up this month though, so up 11% this last month, which is very strong. So yeah, across the board things have been quite good for me. Again, I touched on this last week, but the one holding in my portfolio that's kind of had a bad year is Microsoft. It's only up 13%. It still trades at a pretty expensive PE ratio. I did wish I took some gains, I mean, everyone obviously wishes they took gains when it was high, but it's my biggest individual stock holding, and I'm up around 34% on it, and I hold 13.5 shares or $5,755 in equity. So that's kind of been my loser for the year, even though it's in the green still, and getting a 12% return or so is actually quite good, especially if you look on a average, kind of over a long period of time, it's quite good. But when you compare it to how the S&P has done and how some other stocks have done, not as good, especially when it's my biggest individual stock holding. Google is a stock I bought into recently and kind of grew my position in. I kind of bought it when it was a little bit, well, not higher, but a bit higher than what it is, or roughly the same to what it is now. And I sold my JP Morgan position and bought in, and I have close to $3,000 in there now. Hopefully I can see some gains, as the PE ratio of 22 is actually quite low when you compare it to its big tech competitors, and the S&P, it's actually under the average of the S&P, I believe, as well. So hopefully this will be a good position for me, and I can kind of ride it out now to see the gains in the long term, especially with all the negativity that's potentially being priced into Alphabet, with the risks of them getting split up and them having to sell off their Chrome business. Having a look at the Excel spreadsheet, you can see this is kind of how the portfolios are looking. There will be some changes obviously in the Australian portfolio when I allocate that cash towards how things are weighted, but as of the moment, this is how things look. American portfolio, not too much has changed. VOO is still my biggest by far, Microsoft, Apple, and then the likes of Alphabet, Costco, and Amazon. So that's how they're kind of weighted. And then having a look at my balances, so obviously it's the start of the month, so I put in the new figures, and you can see it was another strong month for me. So I went from $49,347 to $51,498 in the stake portfolio, so a nice little jump. If you look at the graph here, you can see that tiny little bump, but look at how good that trajectory is. So over the past, since I've been tracking it, pretty much it's slowly gone up and up and up. There was that one little downturn when I didn't put any money in and markets kind of traded down, but that little bump, and then I've just been going straight back to it and going back up. And you look at my Vanguard portfolio, that's been an even better trajectory. That's pretty much just going straight up, as I've been investing a lot more money into that. And you can see last month it went from 35,000 to 37,652. So a very good month for both, and I love tracking it on here so I can kind of show myself how the portfolios are looking, because sometimes you're just investing money and you don't really see the outcome, or you don't really see it, you can't really see the full picture. But when you put it down on a graph like this, you can kind of see the gains over a long period of time and kind of that compound effect people speak about. And as I get closer and closer to that, my first $100,000 in stock, obviously I've been pretty fortunate to already have hit $100,000, but that's across other things. That's inclusive of other things, like obviously cash and other positions. But just my stock portfolios, hopefully I can hit that $100,000 mark, potentially even end of February next year. That would be really good if markets help me out. But yeah, that first quarter of next year is kind of my goal, to hit 100,000. Having a look at dividends, as I was speaking about dividends recently, last month I only got $10.85 USD in my stake portfolio, and nothing in the Vanguard, because that's obviously quarterly distributions. But yeah, not too bad. You can see again, these two graphs show the kind of dividends over time. You can see them slowly growing and growing and growing. Again, I'm not a dividend investor, but all my dividends I plan to just reinvest. and just keep buying these businesses and dollar cost averaging in. So that's kind of the goal with the dividends. But as my dividends grow, which will be good, it means I can buy more shares. So yeah, this is how things are looking. And I mentioned my goal next year was to hit $2,000 of dividends. Overall, this was just a bit of a quick update. Again, I'm getting really close to that $90,000 mark, only $150 off. But I'll put some cash to work. Like I said, I've got $2,000, $2,100 sitting on the sidelines in my Vanguard portfolio, which I'll probably be investing. And yeah, I'm going to get this to 90,000, which was good. It was my goal before the end of the year. And now I have this whole month where I can potentially get the stock portfolios up to 92 or maybe even $93,000 before the end of the year, willing on how the markets trade. So yeah, so I'm really getting close to that $100,000 mark. Feel free to leave in the comments your updates on how your portfolio has gone this year and your thoughts and any thoughts you had on the videos. But that's all from me. Thank you.